Class, your attention, please.
Your teacher has a rule. School is cool.
Attention, everybody. Quiet down. Hey, come on. You in the back. Shh. All right, I'm ready to start here. The professor's talking. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Classic Match Classroom. I am your professor, Tyler Wolf. I am joined, as always, by my honor student, Mr. Anthony the Prodigy Cerulli. Anthony, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much is going on, to be honest with you. Prodigy student, the honor roll student. Maybe we have to put me on the honor roll at some point, but we'll save those spots for Regis Philbin and the security guards from last week. But I'm doing good. Hectic work schedule and all this, but I am finally excited and ready to talk about some classic wrestling. I even wanted to shout out Turnbuckle Tavern. I'm wearing the shirt, just got some new merch from them. Always have to plug some other podcasts, But yeah, everything's good. How about yourself? How you doing?
You mentioned Turnbuckle Tavern and their t-shirt there. Well, the Count It Out with Mike and Tyler podcast, we also have a t-shirt. We had a booth set up at a local wrestling event this weekend, and I sold a t-shirt. I was very proud. Yeah,
look at you.
Very big deal. So the money's gone. I spent it on Rye immediately, but it was worth it. A very, very proud moment for me. Count It Out is doing great stuff with Barry Wrestling. We've sponsored a tournament that they're doing coming up. So head over to the Count Out YouTube page. You can see all the event center type stuff that we've done there. It's a lot of fun.
And all those videos are great, by the way. Jay, Mike, you guys have been doing some great stuff on that.
Yeah, we're having fun, man. We're having fun and living out the lifelong dream of working with a wrestling company. That's super cool to me, right?
Absolutely.
But you also have been a busy man. I believe that maybe you have something that we need to turn our attention to. Is that correct?
Oh, I guess it's finally time to turn your attention back to the Titantron, because starting probably next week, we're recording this on Friday, so who knows when I'll release it, but the Titantron is returning and we have a lot of changes, new formatting, all this stuff. But the biggest change that I want to announce right here on the Classic Match Classroom, because where else would I announce this type of big news on this platform, is that I have a permanent co-host going forward. My good friend Antonio Connolly, we go to the same college, but he's a graduate and I'm still in college. He's a huge wrestling fan. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and we figured let's talk about wrestling. So I've been waiting for a podcast. That's why I love doing this with you, because we get to chatter it up, and I need that on my show. So I'm finally bringing it back, and we have an episode coming very soon to talk about the Saudi Arabia show, Crown Jewel. We have a lot of stuff to talk about on that. It's all fun stuff. I'm really glad that I'm bringing this podcast back. So that means I'm now working with 3 different podcasts: Titantron, Turnbuckle Tavern, and of course, maybe the greatest podcast of all time, but the Classic Match Classroom,
the crown jewel of all the podcasts.
I like that. I hope the Saudi prince is listening to this episode. But
now listen, as long as all these other podcasts are doing do not affect your homework, Mr. Cerulli. All right.
Of course, I have to keep my priorities in order.
That's
I
right.
Will say that
I have a very strict regimen that I need you to follow.
Absolutely.
My curriculum is very tight. All right. So
yes.
And we're going to get into some fun stuff today. Before that, though, great feedback on the ECW show. Yeah. We see your comments. We appreciate your comments. So keep them coming. I did see in our group chat, somebody did request Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon ladder match. We will get to that soon. Not that soon. You'll see why in a couple of weeks. My lesson plan may or may not involve a little bit of Shawn Michaels coming up. So I don't want to overkill it with Shawn, but Shawn and Razor, it's been noted. I see it. It will get done at some point. Promise.
And also just a huge shout out to all of our listeners and viewers. This past episode of Classic Match Classroom, the ECW versus Jerry Lawler, we hit 50 views in the first 24 hours, which is the most that we have done on a day one release in our history. we're really excited about that. We're still growing those numbers. So if you haven't checked out that episode or any of the Classic Match Classroom episodes, go ahead and check them out. Of course, after this one.
EC
EC
All right. Well, let's segue a little bit then. Let's get into our lesson this week. ECW is the land of extreme, right? How about we take a look at a blood feud this week? Let's go back. Let's go back in time to, I believe it's 1983. Yes, we're looking about the summer of 83 here. We're going to take a deep dive into the Intercontinental Champion at the time, the magnificent Don Muraco. And he is going to start a rivalry with the Superfly brother, Jimmy Snuka. As always, I like to ask you, what did you know, if anything, about Snuka and Muraco leading up to this match?
Oof. So this is another week similar to Slaughter and Sheik that I knew nothing about this going into it, except for, of course, the moment that we're going to talk about at the end of the show. I knew, of course, about Jimmy Snuka. I mentioned that I watched WrestleMania 1. So I knew about him through that. I knew about, some of just his moments that he's been involved in. Roddy Piper, his match with The Undertaker being the first, opponent of The Undertaker at WrestleMania. So I knew a little bit about Jimmy Snuka. Don Muraco, I'm telling you, I knew nothing about him. I knew that he was a wrestler. I know his name, magnificent, all that, but hadn't seen any of his work, hadn't listened to any of his promos. So I was more than excited to get into this lesson.
I was excited about this because when I was growing up, I only knew the babyface Don Muraco. I didn't get to see a lot of heel Don Muraco other than like Fuji Vice, which is really famous and all that stuff, right? So what do you think, man? Are you ready to get into the lesson this week?
Ring the bell, because class is in session.
Well, and that is going to take us to how this all began. So let's do a little bit of a backstory here, because we're going to be in Buddy Rogers' Corner. Do you know who Buddy Rogers is at all?
He is the first WWE champion.
He is the WWF champion.
Yes.
Buddy Rogers was the NWA world champion at the time.
Right.
And Vince McMahon Sr. was a part of the board of the NWA. He really wanted Rogers to be his champion. Like he had that vote. He was kind of talking about breaking off from the NWA as a whole. The NWA didn't like that very much. They sent legit shooter Lou Thez to have a match with Buddy Rogers. No one's going to go over that, right? So I think there was some sort of a controversy in the match. And that's where Vince Sr. took his chance and said, Buddy, you're coming with me. You're my champion now. And they broke away from the NWA. And unfortunately, Buddy suffered a heart attack shortly after that. And that's why his match with Bruno was only like 43 seconds. And Bruno beat him with the bear hug. Why are we talking about the original Nature Boy, also Buddy Rogers, right now? Well, because he is very influential in Jimmy Snuka. Shortly before this angle happened, Jimmy Snuka was a heel. He was partnered up with Captain Lou Albano. And Buddy Rogers,
really?
Yeah. This is a cool little story here. So Buddy Rogers kind of was talking to Snuka because Captain Lou Albano was robbing Snuka of all his money, right? Snuka was this wild, jungle guy, you know what I mean? And Albano was taking advantage of him, and Buddy Rogers was bringing this to light, and it led to Snuka turning face and having a really intense rivalry against Crippler Ray Stevens, and Lou Albano. And Buddy Rogers as well. So Buddy Rogers is kind of a friend of Jimmy Snuka's now, right? He wasn't his manager per se, but they were associated on screen together. So we had this interview segment with Rogers Corner here, and he is interviewing the Intercontinental Champion, the original Rock, if you will, Don Muraco. Did you know that he was the original Rock?
I didn't. Like that was that like his nickname?
That was his nickname. When he turned babyface, his nickname in the late 80s was The Rock, Don Muraco, the original Rock. Yeah. Muraco's getting interviewed here. Your Intercontinental Champion, being your cocky heel. He's bragging how good he is, beating guys like, how about this? Rocky Johnson, speaking of rocks. Right?
There you are.
I didn't even plan that, so good for me. He's also talking about how he's beating guys like Tito Santana and that he's making the IC title mean something.
You see this right here? I am the one that has brought this title into contention in every continent. In every continent, every continent in the world.
But all of a sudden, Jimmy Snuka just walks to the ring to have his match. He's scheduled to have a match, and Morocco gets just so insulted. How dare somebody take the attention away from me? Even though Snuka didn't do anything, he just walked, but people cheered because Snuka was a big baby face. He's probably the number 2 baby face in the company at the time, right? Maybe him and Slaughter, I would say, would go back and forth. This is before Hogan had come back. So yeah, I would say Snuka might even be right under Bruno at this point as your number 2 baby face. So the crowd are excited to see him. Morocco is furious, and Morocco heads to the ring and just starts running down Snuka, and he spits on him. That is like the most insulting thing you can do to somebody, is spit on them, right? Snuka jumps over the top rope, hits a beautiful dive on Morocco, rips up his clothes. Morocco hits Snuka with the microphone. Snuka is bleeding like crazy. They put the big X up on the screen. What did you think about the introduction to these guys getting involved in this feud?
Well, first point, I love the censored X, because I was so confused why they put that up there. I was like, someone have a wardrobe malfunction. Like, what the hell is going on here? But yeah, that was for the blood they mentioned. I was like, all right, interesting. All right. So 2 main points that I wanted to hit on. One, right from the jump, was immediately surprised with how good Don Morocco is on the mic. Just a swagger to him, I think just really works well. And I think that makes him so great on the mic. And he really carries this whole feud with his promo abilities. So that was the first point. The second point, I don't know. I would have to go back and look at these other, like the first segment that you see for all of the other lessons that we went through. But as far as I'm aware, this has to be the best ways to start the feud that we've seen so far.
I would agree with that.
So explosive, the spit. It was just such a simple yet effective way to start the feud. The dive outside the ring, clean.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Such a good dive. He did not even touch the ropes. It was just beautiful dive outside the ropes. And then it was just so brutal. Like, blood was already involved. You had such a nice brawl. You got guys separating the two. For me, this is probably the best start to the feud that I've seen since we've started this podcast.
Yeah, and probably the most intense one as well. You know what I mean? Like, this was a bloody beatdown, but both guys came out looking strong in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They did it. They let both guys shine. Morocco got to be the chicken shit heel for a little bit, getting beat up, his clothes ripped off. But then he did the heel move and hit him with the microphone and busted Snuka open. So Morocco leaves with his heat. Snuka leaves with heat, and people are like, okay, I need to see this match right away.
I think they built up both characters perfectly at the beginning of this. You have Morocco getting over with his words, Snuka getting over with his actions, and that makes sense with the heel and face dynamic going forward.
Absolutely. And now, like you mentioned, moving forward here, Don Morocco, got to be one of the MVPs of this feud here. His microphone work. He's with, Vince McMahon and his amazing hair at some of these interviews. We'll just kind of run through a couple of them really quick here. Morocco cutting a promo. This guy is like a disgusting slob, though. Like, he's like spits on the floor in the middle of this first promo. He just seems to be proud that he got Snuka to snap and show that jungle side to him. He wanted to bring out that wild animal side in Snuka, and he's proud that he got him off his game.
And there's Superfly. There, Superfly, is where the volcano erupted. That's where you threw your 250 pounds out of the sky onto my body. That's where you came after me like you never come after anybody before. And that's where it started. Only the beginning, Superfly. Because one of us, only one of us, will find the solitude that we deserve, the greatness that only stands alone for one at the very top.
But the one thing I like about these Morocco promos, especially this one, is that Morocco doesn't sound scared. He sounds like he's ready to go to war with Snuka. And I like that in a heel as well, because there's a great line that Morocco runs throughout this feud where he knows how to beg off and be the chicken shit heel, but you believe that he wants to fight and he's crazy and wants to be a badass. And I'm going to move right into the second one promo here, and then I want to get your take on them. It's the same vibes here, right? This next promo, Don Morocco seems like he's crazy. You know what I mean? Like the vibe I'm getting is that the thought of violence, it excites him. You know, like he's ready to, and then you cut to Snuka, who's the complete opposite. He's so calm in his promo. His eyes have so much fire and passion, though.
We have, Superfly, you and I have reached the zenith. We are the Big Apple. We are New York. We are Madison Square Garden. As much as the people love you, they love to hate me. Because when I'm bad, I'm so good.
Well, Don, here I am, brother, standing. Especially before you people. Now, Don Morocco, what you have did, and what you people have seen, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know how much it hurts inside here. Don Morocco, you don't know, brother, what you did to this man.
I never thought Snuka was a great promo, but I thought his delivery and his facial expressions really made him special.
Absolutely.
What do you think about these promos leading into their first match here?
So I already said that I was surprised, like right off the bat from that first promo from Morocco, just to see like how good he was in just his speaking abilities. These next few promos really showcase how much of an intensity there is in how he speaks that is completely unmatched. And something that I picked up on, especially throughout this entire feud, is that the pacing of what he says is, pun intended, magnificent. You know, he just does it in such a way that he could go from very quiet to very intense. He can go from very intense and loud to, you know, ending in a whisper. You know, he's able to just control those levels so well that it just makes him so unpredictable. And like you said, you know, it just has that fire in his eyes. Like he sounds like he's ready to go to war with Snuka, which I really like. Like he's very intense and he's very confident on the mic. And then you'll see later on that he kind of backs off a little bit. As far as Snuka is concerned, you know, I don't think he compares to Morocco at all on the mic. I do, like you said, he has like that. He shows the emotion. You know, I think he makes up for not being as articulate on the mic compared to someone like Morocco in his emotion and his intensity and the facial expressions. Like you believe what both of these guys are saying. And I think that goes a long way with these promos.
I think the fact that Snuka isn't as articulate on the microphone also works in his favor, and it makes his character more believable. You know, if he's supposed to be this wild jungle guy and he's coming out here and talking all etiquette and like proper sentences, like it would take away from that crazy factor that he has, right? The fact that his English is a little bit broken, that he might not say the right words in the right places, I think it legitimizes that character even more. Well, just while we're talking about Don Morocco promos here, before we move on to their first match, I should send you a link. There's my favorite Don Morocco promo of all time. I don't even know what he's cutting it about, but he's with Mean Gene, and you can tell he's just trying to make Mean Gene laugh because he walks in with a box of donuts, like these like powdered donuts, and he must shove like 4 donuts in his mouth to the point he can't even talk. He's like spitting donuts all over Mean Gene. Mean Gene is dying laughing. And Morocco was just like, it was so weird. Like his character was so weird to me because like he's this Hawaiian beach bum, you know, that's what the crowd would chant to him to get him heat. But then he's like dressed up really nice. And then all of a sudden he's a slob. Like, Morocco was just so unique and all over the place. Like, you know, like I said, he hawks a loogie on the floor mid promo. Like Morocco was a very unique character here. I really enjoyed Morocco throughout this feud.
Yeah, definitely. His character is just so all over the place. I think that's like the most interesting character that I've seen so far because he has so many levels to him, both in his promo, you know, his presentation, even him in the ring. It's just so all over the place. And I really like that a lot. He's so unpredictable, I guess. Absolutely. I'm trying to get at.
And that takes us to Madison Square Garden for the first match that they have in the series here. Did you end up watching this match? Did you skim through it? What did you?
I skimmed through it. It was still early on, so I figured let me just get to the finish to see how we're gonna, continue this feud.
So I told you guys and anyone that's watching along with this, and obviously the playlist is in there. If you're watching with us, if you don't want to watch this whole match, start about the 12-minute mark. I'll go through a couple of quick points in the match. I like Albano and Rogers out at the ringside area. They almost come to blows at the beginning. And I just, Morocco really bumps well for a big man. And he makes all Snuka's stuff seem like a big deal. And he chopped Morocco's flopping around. He did this really great bump where Snuka took his head and shoved him into the mat. And he landed on his face and then did a flip, like a front flip over. I got a kick out of it. Morocco hits a tombstone on the floor to bust Snuka open. The crowd is just losing their mind for Snuka's comeback. Snuka hits a pile driver to a massive pop, and then Snuka snaps. Morocco hits him with a low blow, and Snuka just snaps and just starts strangling Morocco.
Superfly choking Morocco deliberately. Referee Dick Kroll now being shoved out of the way by Morocco, who's literally fighting for his life right now. Kroll in there once more, he's calling for the bell. He called for the bell. Snuka would not release the chokehold. However, it was Morocco that shoved Dick Kroll down. But look at Jimmy relentlessly with this chokehold. Will not turn loose Morocco.
People had to run into the ring and pull them apart. They had to pull apart brawl after. Snuka gets DQ'd, so Morocco also gets DQ'd for pushing the ref down. It's just wild stuff. I really like how they did this. I talked about this in the Slaughter program. I always like how they have a match that makes you want to see another match, and this is what this one did for me.
Yeah, like I said, I skipped to about that 12-minute mark. And just in those few last moments alone, as I alluded to before, you can really see how Snuka is committing to this character. The savage-like offense that he presents, even in the post-match attack, that he's not really going for explosive, fist or whatever. He's just trying to strangle him, and they're just going back and forth in that regard. And I think that makes that a little bit more personal because they're really trying to hurt each other. They're not trying to put on a show. They're not trying to, put all these crazy moves or whatever. They're literally just trying to kill each other. Yeah. And I think that just adds to a lot of the, just kind of story to it going forward. It makes me want to see this match again, which we will see eventually.
Absolutely. And of course, there will be more matches, but let's cut to the next promo here. This was maybe my favorite promo Morocco cut, or at least one of them. He was just so fun in this promo, saying stuff like, I'm a tough son of a gun. He's twirling his glasses around, name dropping all these big arenas, saying that he wants the best and the toughest. It's basically like they just were like, okay, Don, you've got a minute and a half, go out there and just say whatever the hell you want. And I really, really enjoyed this promo from Morocco.
Never once did he ask for the Magnificent One. Never once did he throw his hat into the ring. I had to go get him. So when I come to the Spectrum in Philadelphia, when I go to the Garden in New York, when I go to the Sports Arena in Los Angeles, wherever I go, whatever it takes, Mr. Cal Rudnick, it doesn't matter who it is. I want the best. I want the toughest.
I love just the entire promo. He's so sarcastic. He's just, he's just got a big smile on his face. But then he's, like I mentioned, he slows it down and he brings it back to reality. He just drives it into Snuka. What I don't like is just the interviewer. What was his name? Cal Rudman?
Yes, I think he was out of the LA territory or something like that.
He really took me out of that because he played along with him with the sarcasm. So he almost didn't allow Morocco to get to that point of serious because he was so sarcastic and just had this big smile on his face the entire time. It's like, let this guy do what he needs to do and let him slow it down. I don't know. The interviewer took me out of it, but I love Morocco here.
That's where your mean genes come into play.
Exactly.
Though, right? The
Vince would have been perfect
Gene,
in this
Vince
point
as well,
because Vince would have been
Gene.
serious the entire time, which makes Morocco's sarcasm more exaggerated.
Mm-hmm. Even Mean Gene, where this guy played along with Morocco and joked with him, Mean Gene would have been like, you better get serious. Snuka's coming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you need that straight guy. If the heel is going to be over the top, you need somebody to put him back in his place, not overshadow him, but to keep him straight and narrow. Snuka's not messing around.
That goes to our point about how there's different, interviewers back in this time, and everyone had their own different style. Nowadays, you have just insert random woman interviewer that does the same exact thing. Mean Gene is completely different from McMahon. Everyone has their different style and brings out different aspects of the characters that the wrestlers portray.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I think it's something that the current product in both major companies, or all the major companies, is missing. Yeah. They don't have that credible interviewer.
Right. Everyone is lacking a Mean Gene. That's the biggest thing right now.
Many years ago, when Corey Graves first got brought up from NXT, and he really had a lot of credibility to him. He had a lot of respect from the internet fans. I was at a Comic-Con and I met Mick Foley. And I pitched Mick Foley an idea because he was the Raw general manager at the time. And I said, hey, Mick, Corey just got called up. He's got all this credibility. People believe what he's saying. Why not give him the Mean Gene interview segment once a week, put him on the platform, shoot the ring behind like they do in the 80s, and let him help get stories over. And Foley was so cool. He stopped and he goes, I like that. I like that a lot. And he's like, I'm going to write that down. But he couldn't find his notepad to write it down. And needless to say, I did not make the WWE creative team after that.
Yeah, but, unfortunately.
It's your loss, WWE, all right?
Yeah, and it's the classroom's gain after all.
That's right. That's right. Now I'm here just spreading this knowledge thanks to Wikipedia, YouTube, and my messed up brain.
That's all you need. That is all you need.
So now we're moving on to Snuka. Snuka's going to cut a promo here. Snuka's kind of scary in this promo. He scares me a little bit, Yeah. And I thought Vince was like really amazing. You talked about Vince setting a tone. Vince is just so soft smoking, right? And Snuka goes on this. His eyes again are crazy.
We go to the kill, brother, till one person just completely just out of it, off his feet, my man, off his feet, because this thing is so dangerous. It can go either way you want it. Around your face, your neck, your mouth especially, brother. Remember one thing, my man, to the death. We fight to the death. Can you understand? To the death, brother. That's hell. Hell, brother.
Yeah, much more intense promo than the last one. Like I mentioned, he's not as articulate, but that character just shines really well. To the point where you believe everything he's saying. And he really wants to get at Morocco here. It just blends so perfectly. And I really think that this was an amazing promo, and it got me invested. I wanted to see the strap match, let alone the cage match. That's for later, but like they're doing so much to hype up the strap match too, that I want to see this happen. And I don't know if you watched the entire video here, but it was 5 minutes and 3 promos. We had Snuka, then Sergeant Slaughter, then we had another Morocco promo. And I think it was just very interesting that in 5 minutes, you were able to tell 3 different stories, and everyone did it so perfectly. Again, something that the company is missing right now is just putting a focus on interviews. And that's especially certain with Morocco, is just he puts so much focus on his interviews and his promos that really sell this entire story.
Yeah, I really miss like the small promos like this. I like you said, they told 3 different stories in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now in 3 hours, or in Raw, or even in AEW sometimes in 2 hours, they're not telling nearly the stories that these guys told in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
The power of the promo is very, very effective.
It's a lost art.
Absolutely, it is. Speaking of a lost art, is the Fijian strap match a lost art? That's where we're heading now. I believe this was in LA. This one, I couldn't find anything else from Madison Square Garden. So I went to the LA Forum. I believe it is here, at least. Don't hold me to that. The professor did not fully look that one up. But you got Morocco and Snuka in the strap match. What did you think? Did you watch this entire match? Or
Yeah, I made sure. I was so ready to watch this match. I was excited for it.
yeah, I like the little things here, like Morocco not wanting to put the strap on.
Yeah.
And so Snuka just headbutts him, and the ref's like, okay, the strap's on. I love the way that they use the strap in this match, though. Trying to leave, pulling back in, but even as a weapon, they didn't like over gimmick it. They made everything count, whether it was the choking or just the whipping in general. It made it seem I don't know, just more believable, I guess.
Yeah.
Not hokey like you'd see in more strap matches in the later 90s and whatnot, right?
Right.
I love Morocco again with the low blow, always with the low blow, right? The great heel move. Snuka just ends up beating Morocco to a bloody pulp, though. You get another ref bump, and the heel Morocco takes the strap off of Snuka, which I love that. Snuka doesn't care. He was snapped at this point, right? And Snuka gets disqualified because the strap is off of him. That's the rule of the match, right?
The super fly leap. Holy saying no. Oh my God. Holy's calling for the bell. I'm telling you. Worley's saying that you don't have your strap on. You gotta have the strap around your wrist. That's the rule. That's the only rule. Worley did not see by a long shot Morocco remove the strap from Snuka's wrist as he was face down on the canvas and literally out of it. That's right.
So after the ref bump, Morocco does that. Snuka hog ties Morocco, which I thought was great, and hits him with the big superfly splash. And everybody thinks you got the new champ, but because he's not on the strap, you're disqualified. And again, now you've taken a second match with a gimmick to it, and you've built it to where people need to see a finish now. We've had two non-finishes with a gimmick match, but I'm not upset about this. Like it's like I want to give you my money because I know that Snuka's got Morocco's number. This is 2 matches in a row now, but Morocco's getting technicalities. So what's the best way to settle a feud, especially in the 80s? You take the most dangerous match at the time where there has to be a winner, and you take the cage match, right? And that's what we're going to build to here. So what did you think about the strap match?
Oh my God. I was so into this match. Like it felt like a fight. And I think that's what any stipulation match needs to feel like, is a straight up war with weapons. Compare it to modern day strap matches, that it feels like a game show, that they have to touch the corners and, do all that shit. Like,
I hate that.
Why would you implement touching corners and stuff? Just let these guys go at it. And that's exactly what they did here. I love, like you mentioned, I love the whole just opening segment with Morocco. He literally gives him one of these and then runs out of the ring. I love that they mentioned, and I really appreciate it, that they mentioned the fact that if, you take that, whoever has their strap off gets disqualified. Because sometimes, and I've noticed this especially, let me tie it back to maybe Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, that you have rules in play, but you don't emphasize them. So when they come into play in the finish of the match, it doesn't really get as across to the audience as it should. There's a 30-minute time limit. And they didn't emphasize that at all. I was in the arena and they were barely even mentioning, 10 minutes remaining, 2 minutes, they barely said that. They didn't emphasize at the beginning of anything like that. Whereas here, they made it clear, like, if your strap is off, you are disqualified. So I think that's just a nice little callback. It gets the crowd confused, but it still keeps the rules as the rules.
But you have to have rules.
Exactly. But overall, I just really love the selling. And, I think these guys do a great job in portraying how brutal that this truly is, especially Snuka. His selling is so, facial expressions, we got some color in here, just so much that really just showcases that this is a blood feud. Morocco being choked with the strap, being whipped and all this different stuff. It really just emphasizes where we're going from here. So it makes it necessary for these guys to be put in the cage.
Yeah. A question for you is Don Muraco, he's a big boy. Were you surprised about how much of a bumper he really was and how he was flying around? And because that's my big takeaway I took after watching this Don Muraco. He's such a big boy, but my God, he bumps around like he's, like low 200 pounder, like 180 pound guy. Like he really made Snuka look great.
I would say I'm surprised, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised, obviously, because he is a bigger guy. You wouldn't expect that from someone like him. But at the same time, I'm not surprised because it's just very characteristic and consistent with what we've seen in Muraco so far. He's very unpredictable. His promos are unpredictable. How he wrestles, his character, eating donuts, all this stuff is you can't really expect something from Muraco, which I love about him, the unpredictable nature of his character.
Something that I don't think Muraco gets enough credit for is that he is one of the guys, in my opinion, and I just pulled up the title history around this point of the IC title. But to me, Don Muraco is the first guy that made this like the workhorse title.
Yeah.
I think he because obviously these guys are all great in the ring. Like Pat Patterson was great in the ring. Ken Patera, another great guy. Pedro Morales, former world champion. So I think when you put the belt on Morales there, it gave the belt credibility of having a former world champion as your IC title. But I think Muraco is the guy here with his 2 title reigns. He went 156 days as his first run, and then the second run here was 385 days as champion. I think he kind of put the belt on the map, in my opinion, before he dropped the belt to Tito Santana, and then Tito obviously is a great worker as well, right? So I think Muraco is maybe like the unsung IC champion that people don't talk about. You know what I mean? I think
I was actually gonna present a question to the professor. Does he get enough praise? Because I hadn't seen a lot of Muraco at this point. Does he get praise as like one of the greatest IC champs of all time? Because from what I'm seeing, he should definitely.
Let me turn this around to you. As someone, I grew up with Muraco, so I know who he is. Right. You're about 20 years younger than I am, almost. What we said at the beginning of the show. What do you know about Don Muraco? I don't know anything about him. I think that answers your own question, right?
Yeah.
Don Muraco definitely does not get the love that he should get in this generation's time. But it's hard though, right? Because a lot of the footage is harder to find. His big rivalries against Pedro Morales, the in-ring stuff is different now, right? Him and Morales were a lot slower than he wasn't a blood feud like the Snuka feud where it captivates you a little bit more, right? Him and Tito Santana, great in-ring stuff. I would recommend checking that out. But then he kind of turns to a comedy figure after this with Mr. Fuji, and they do all these crazy like General Hospital rip-off skits and Fuji Vice instead of Miami Vice. They are absolutely hilarious. I have to tell you to watch them. But after this, this was kind of Muraco's last big hurrah, I guess, like this feud and going into the Tito one. But after he loses the belt to Tito, he slowly gets phased down in the card.
Right.
But now that's it. We're building up to the cage match here. And I'm going to kind of group these next few promos in together because it's just Don Muraco being Don Muraco here. But the tone that Muraco has going into these promos is a lot different. I don't know if you picked up on that, but very serious Don Muraco in these promos.
Call it what you want. I still am the champion. Call it what you say. I'm still going to be the champion. Oh, yeah, you got to have the physical ability. But far, far above and beyond that, you got to have the brain. I've been there so many times. So many times I wanted to quit. So many times I wanted to say, no more. But it's never happened. So when you hear the door slam shut, when you hear the lock click, you're gonna know. You're gonna know that all around you, you're in my Crystal Palace, brother.
Yeah.
This was a very protected gimmick at the time. And when the cage went up, you knew you were going to see violence. You knew you were going to see blood, but you knew the feud was coming to an end. This was the blow off. The cage was a draw itself. What did you think about more serious Don Morocco here?
You know, it just fits with what I've been saying, that he's able to flip that intensity when needed. You know, he's able to control the balance of, you know, speaking in a whisper to speaking really intense and really loud. I mean, like, what more could you say about him? You know what I mean? Like, he has that essence to him that he just speaks so naturally that you feel like he, obviously, you know, he presents himself as a wrestler, but he also presents himself just as like a normal person. Well, not too normal, obviously, shoving donuts down his throat, but you know,
I got to get you that promo.
I know, I have to see that. I'm gonna keep bringing it up now because I'm so interested. But you just feel the realness to him. It's very similar to like Mick Foley. You know, we watched all of his promos, and it felt like just a regular guy portraying himself as a wrestler. And I think that's what we get here with Morocco. You know, he shows emotion, he shows the variation. What I did pick up on, especially in the second promo, I wish we had seen more Lou Albano, because obviously, you know, I've not seen a lot of Lou. I saw WrestleMania 1 with everything with like Cyndi Lauper, but I never really saw him talk. So I really wanted to see him get involved a little bit more here. But I guess it makes more sense in that Morocco can hold his own as a promo. So why would he need, you know, Albano to talk for him? Similar to Roman and Paul Heyman right now. Like, if Roman's great on the mic, why have Heyman talk for him? So yeah, I just wanted to see a little bit more of him. But regardless, he was great on the mic.
And Albano
Morocco
is such a character too. Like, if you're going to cut a Lou Albano promo, it's literally just like like he is. That's a Lou Albano promo, and you know, but I don't get the pairing with Morocco and Albano. Like you said, Morocco didn't need it, but Lou Albano was one of the biggest heels in the company at the time.
Yeah.
And do you know that him and Vince Jr. didn't really get along too well?
Really?
Yeah. So when Vince Jr. took over from his dad, there was a couple conditions, right? Some of them Vince listened to, some of them didn't. His dad said, don't go to other territories. Vince took over the world. But there's like a handful of guys that Vince Sr.'s like, you take care of these people forever. And Lou Albano was one of the guys on the list.
Really?
Lou Albano must have been fired and rehired 150 times in the WWF. Like Lou Albano was a bit of a piss tank, you know what I mean? He would get drunk a lot and fuck you, Vince. Like, you know what I mean? And Vince would fire him and bring him back a few weeks later or a couple years later. Like, there's always this rocky relationship with Vince Jr. and Lou Albano. Lou Albano is a nut job, man. He's crazy.
And you know what? Maybe tying back to what I was saying about wanting to see more Lou, maybe he doesn't even fit really to speak in this situation. If we're going more intense and we're showcasing that the cage is the cage, like this is going to be a fight, you know, why would you really want like Lou Albano?
Yeah,
I don't think it would fit. So yeah, that makes me a little more okay with him taking a backseat.
Yeah, and so that's it for the build here. Before I turn the class over to you for your presentation on the match, what's your overall impression of the build here? Where are we grading it on your end?
You know, I was talking to you before the show in that it was a very simple build. I don't know if I would consider it as simple as Sheik and Slaughter, because that was textbook, you know, baby face and heel. You know, we got a lot of good stuff here. Some of it dragged on. I'm not going to lie. Just seeing Morocco being the one to carry the feud with the promos was getting a little tiresome. I wanted to see maybe one more Snuka promo or maybe another segment thrown in somewhere. But I know that just based on the WWF schedule and when shows are aired, you know, whatever. But
there could have been some more Snuka promos, but I just couldn't find anything either.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. But I think still focusing on Morocco definitely just showcased him in a light that, you know, you need to give some love to the Magnificent One. He was great on the promo. He was great in the ring. We're going to see that in a few moments. I did want to say that, you know, going into this and especially after, I really loved the strap match. I think it was just such a great, brutal fight. That is really the bulk of where my grade is for this whole rivalry. For the feud itself, I'm going to give a solid B. You know, like I said, some things hindered it, like it being a little limited. But even with that, you have that opening segment with, everything with the blood and censored and the leap over the ropes. Perfect way to start off the feud. Best way I've seen since we've started. That strap match was amazing. I didn't check out the first match. Maybe going back and watching it, it'll kind of change the grade up a little bit. But
no, you didn't miss much on that.
Yeah, the promos, what they were very standard. So nothing bad here. A solid B for the story altogether. And yeah, that's really all I have to say on it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. What I really love about this is I'm really hoping that people are going to click on this episode based on, obviously the legendary moment that we're going to talk about in a bit with Snuka jumping off the cage. So I'm really hoping that draws people in so they can hear how good Morocco was.
Right.
If anything for this show, I would just like people to check out some Don Morocco stuff, check out his in-ring stuff, check out his promos, find the jelly donut, find Fuji Vice. That's my goal for this episode. And that was kind of my thought process going into this episode is we all know Snuka. He gets the love, even with his controversy, he always got the love, right? We know the moment. We've heard it a million times before, the cage, the impact it's had, but where's Don Morocco in all this? So hopefully people take away from this episode, they're like, you know what, Don Morocco, that guy was a good hand. And that's all I'm hoping for.
I told you last week, I didn't even know that there was a build or a feud to this match at all. I thought it was just the moment. We just got a random IC title cage match. And
this was in the 80s. Cage matches actually meant something in the 80s. They're not just throwaway raw matches.
It's not a red cage or random.
And there's actually build to them. They didn't just put it on TV for free for two guys that have never fought before. No, these matches mean something. That's why we take them back to the classroom. Exactly.
100%.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, I'm surprised. Not a lot of questions this week. I guess it's just, this is a very straightforward story. But yeah, I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. No further questions. Let's get right into this cage match.
You and Jimmy Superfly Snuka, the steel cage match, the iconic dive off the top. When Snuka flattens you with the splash.
He's 15-22, got 245 pounds. 15, 25, 20 feet in the air landing on you. Why? It's all fake anyway, so it didn't hurt. Never knew he was there.
Okay. Well, that takes us to October the 17th, exactly 38 years ago to the day that we have released this episode. Wow. And that was not planned. What a fluke, eh? 1983, Madison Square Garden. We are inside the steel cage with your Intercontinental Champion, the magnificent Don Morocco, defending his title against the Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, Prodigy. The classroom is yours.
All right. So right off the bat, my number one pet peeve in wrestling, the champion came out first. I have to address that because I hate whenever the champion comes out first. They do it nowadays. They do it all the time. We saw that even with Hogan and Savage. I hate it so much, but regardless. The pre-match of just building up to the cage, I understood, they're trying to, focus on, looking at the cage, making it all intense and whatever. I don't know. I think it went on a little bit too long for me. I had to start skipping a lot of time just because, it was just Snuka looking at the cage and everything. However, before I even get into this match, we missed the promo that was on the same video as the match itself. They had two pre-match promos, one for Snuka, one for Morocco. Just to touch on that real quick, because I really love the visual of, and I wanted to bring this up because I think this has to be my favorite promo during the entire build. The visual of Snuka's voice, kind of as a voiceover for the construction of the cage, because he's so intense. So it makes it seem like, Morocco, this is on you now. We're about to do this. And they're building the cage as he's talking.
The only reason why we're in this situation, brother, in the steel cage, is because you know what you did. Started off from Lou Albano, and it started back from past, brother. And it comes on, and now it's up to you. I'll never forget, brother. Nobody forgets deep down inside.
I feel like intense is the word of the episode. I feel like we're Sesame Street. This episode is sponsored by the letter I for intense.
Do you feel like it makes the cage meal feel more special and more dangerous when you're seeing them put it up compared to just being lowered from the roof? Like, did you get a different vibe, or was it just kind of like whatever for you?
I honestly didn't even consider that.
Like for me, like when I see them building the cage by hand, I don't know why, but it kind of adds like this buzz for me. Like, and I can imagine sitting in the arena and watching them bring this out. Like the excitement would, slowly the more it's like if you go to a concert and you're waiting for the main act to come out, and they always play like songs in the background, and then the songs get louder and louder, and like the band finally comes out. Like that's how I feel like when they're building the cage like this.
That's a good aspect. I never even considered that. I think I've always seen just the cage get lowered down. I like the spectacle of that, but I think it kind of normalizes and it kind of brings back down to earth when they're putting up the cage, because it feels more real. You know what I mean? Like we're putting these two guys and we're fencing them in. I kind of like that visual of them building the cage around them. It's like you are stuck in here. Have fun. So I like that a lot. Like I said, I'm used to just them lowering it down with dun 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 everything, and I like that.
Yeah.
It's a cool little visual.
I like the music as well. Bum, bum, bum. And I do like the twist that you put on that when they're both in the ring and they lower it. You're stuck in here. That's kind of cool as well. And of course, my favorite cage stuff is I always love when the Undertaker's in Hell in a Cell and he's always the last one to come in, and he steps and does the big dramatic swing back and pull the door. Like I like that as well.
That's so
I like seeing the cage get locked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I even compared to the lowdown, I like the door. I like seeing the chain come out, the padlock. Like you're in there.
Exactly.
And that's why I like the NWA cage matches better. In a lost episode that we've done that may see the light of day one day, we watch an NWA cage match. Pinfalls, submissions, no escape. Whereas the WWF is escape the cage. I always thought that cage matches, the point of the cage is to keep you in. I don't like that the point is to escape. I never liked that.
Yeah, no, great call there. Like I said, I didn't even consider that, but yeah, I think it definitely like normalizes and just, makes it more real for me. So I like that a lot. But yeah, the pre-match to it, getting back into here because, then we had a Morocco promo, and I think actually Snuka won this promo war between them just because of that added visual of the construction of the cage, but whatever. So the pre-match was a bit too long for me, just get in the ring. We were like halfway into the video when they actually started. And honestly, there's not going to, I was just going to say, like, there's not a lot that I'm going to be saying about this match because it was very, very shorter than I thought it was going to be. I think the video that you sent me was 20 minutes. The match started around the 60% mark,
I think this match only went like 8 to 10 minutes if I remember
that, you know what I mean? I like the sturdiness of the cage because a lot of times you'll see, like, especially with like the fence type of cage that they use nowadays, like it's very flimsy. What I like here is that there's a spot where Morocco throws Snuka into the cage and it does not move. Like it is very stiff. And immediately he starts bleeding.
Well, look kind of low. The area that Superfly is clutching seems to be he's going to slingshot him here, Pat. Where? Right into the side of the steel cage. What a maneuver by Morocco as the Superfly got really hit slingshot. Holy mackerel.
So I think that just builds up kind of the credibility of the cage. It's like,
I was going to say.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
right?
Yeah, protects the gimmick, live the gimmick, just like yourself with that cardigan. So yeah, I just love that little aspect of it. There is a spot where he Irish whips. I think it's Snuka Irish whips Morocco that he like lands on his head almost like he does a full front flip.
Yeah.
Morocco now going to where he's going to fling Superfly into the corner. Oh, and a reversal! And upside down Morocco! Morocco almost landed it right on top of his head.
I love that. Again, just ties into, him bumping so well. You get a lot of elements of them selling like madmen here. Just the visuals of bleeding and the facial expressions, everything just works so well here. And then already we're here at the finish. because like I said, it's very short. And I was shocked because I thought this entire time you get the leap off the cage and he wins. But no, what happens here? That he kind of like he does a move that
Gives
sends
him a
Morocco
flying
knocked
headbutt.
back. Yeah, a flying headbutt, which knocks him back. I guess Morocco in that instance calls for the cage to be opened.
I
He
think
opens the cage and he falls out.
Yeah, I think what kind of happened was Morocco had walked towards the door to like try to leave, but Snuka kind of interrupted him, and then he hit the ropes, hit him with the big headbutt, and Morocco flipped over and fell out of the cage.
Superfly with another vicious headbutt. The door is open, and Morocco's outside. He's pulled to the arena. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Morocco must have called for the door to be open. As Superfly came with that vicious headbutt, Morocco went upside down backwards.
Oh, no, that was an accident that Morocco was able to get out of that.
I might have missed that then, opening the cage beforehand.
I love this finish, by the way.
I do too.
It's such a great way to keep Snuka strong and to keep Morocco as the champion.
Yeah. I was very torn to begin with because like I said, I was so set on just seeing that leap. Like there was certain parts when like Snuka was on the top rope and I was just getting ready for him to take that one extra step and go onto the top of the cage. But then he started going down. I was like, am I watching the right match here? Did Tyler send me something different? But no. And then, so I love the finish, caught me off guard, which actually made the leap off the cage a little bit better for me because I was expecting to see it right at the end. To see that there was this surprise finish, it just made the match a little bit better. And then, of course, the leap, like what else is there to say? It was perfect, perfect super fly splash.
He's climbing to the top of the steel cage. I don't believe it. Superfly perched 15 feet high. Oh my God.
We're going to take a little deep dive into the leap in a minute here as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think you could do that right away because I have nothing else to say. The match was what it was. I'll give my grade in a few moments, but it was very standard. I want to see a little bit more from these guys. But from what they did do, it was all right.
Okay. So before you give me the grade here, I've got 2 points I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about the first one and then I want your grade. And then we're going to kind of bring it home with our honor roll and a little other thing I want to talk about.
Absolutely.
Question for you and pop quiz for everybody listening.
Oh,
true or false? This was the first time that Jimmy Snuka ever jumped off the top of a cage.
Well, you alluded to it last week, so I'm going to say false.
That is correct. Jimmy Snuka fought Bob Backlund when he was a heel for the world title. Philadelphia Spectrum, I believe. And he climbed up to the top of the cage, did the Superfly splash, but missed.
Wow.
And that was the finish. Backlund rolled out of the cage after. So
wait, I think, didn't Morocco allude to that in one of his promos? I think he mentioned.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he kind of hinted at that as well. So Snuka had jumped off the top of the cage before, but it was not a move that he hit. So
wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was the first time he hit the splash off the top of the cage. What a moment. We're going to really break that down in a minute because I've got another thing, but I'm curious to know where are we grading this match here? I've got my grade in my head. I want to see if we're lined up here.
Yeah. So for me, again, this match was very limited in its time. You know, a lot of stuff happened before the match that the pre-match was a little too long. Very basic stuff here. The selling helped it a lot. You know, the finish actually helps a lot too. I'm going to maybe downgrade this a little bit. I might go for about a C+.
Okay. I had it sitting at a C- for me.
Yeah, about a C to a C+. I originally had it at a C, but I bumped it up a little bit just because I really like just thinking about the finish. I think it really works well. Plus that extra layer of him missing the splash the first time he did it to now hitting it now, just, you know, ties in that whole story. So I'm going to go around more for C because I'm focusing on the match itself. Like it was what it was. Yeah, C, maybe a weak C plus.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going to give my honor roll right now. And then I want to kind
Hit
of
the music. Here we go.
So I changed my honor roll this morning.
Again,
And
so
I
much
did.
booking on the fly.
I know.
Professor, we gotta set your ground here.
My original honor roll was Vince McMahon's awesome hair. That was my original honor roll. But I've changed my honor roll, and this is kind of where I want to break it down. My honor roll this week is Mick Foley.
Two-time honor roll.
Now
Wow.
this is going to be high school Mick Foley. And the picture that you show here, I'm hoping it is the one where it's the famous shot where Snuka is staring at the cage and you see Mick Foley in the crowd. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes.
So I sent you a clip this morning. Did you watch this clip?
Yes, I did.
So this is very famous interview where Mankind sits down with Jim Ross. And this is what turned Mankind into a babyface in the WWF in 1997. What a great year. Are we going to talk about 97 more?
Yeah.
Stick around for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, we'll stick around.
These promos are really good. But to me, this promo that Mick Foley cuts, where he's talking about hitchhiking to Madison Square Garden, which is a shoot to watch this match, and he needed to see the violence. And when Jimmy Snuka jumped off the cage, it changed his life. You see the clips of Mick Foley. This match is what spawned famous. The dude loved to come to the WWF essentially. The famous clip where Foley jumps off the roof of his house onto the mats, like that was inspired by Snuka.
So I put out my thumb, Jimmy, and it took 16 or 17 hours, but I made my way to the garden. It took just about all the money I had in the world, but I got a front row seat. And I saw the move that would change my life. When Jimmy Snuka came off the top of the cage, and I saw people stand up. And I saw people cheer, and I know I wasn't the only person whose life was changed in that arena. And I realized, Jimmy, that I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to hear people cheer for me because of some act of bravery that I committed. I wanted to see people's emotions. I wanted to see children cry out of love for me and the things I could do inside a ring.
I think that this promo by Mick Foley is what makes this moment live on and be legendary. Because at this time period, the WWF didn't look back and they never showcased moments like this. I never knew about Snuka and Morocco in the cage until I saw Mick Foley cut this promo.
Really? Okay.
So to me, Mick Foley putting this match over, put it from a match that happened in 1983 that nobody remembered or talked about to becoming an iconic moment and enhance in the trenches of time in the WWE, WWF.
Yeah.
So for that reason, for Mick Foley giving the match that shine and giving the credibility to that moment is why Mick Foley is my honor roll this week.
Wow. Good reasoning. I will give you that. Two-time honor roll. Mick Foley. God.
Bang, bang.
He is just straight A's across the board in this classroom.
100%. But
I love
very
it.
close,
I love it.
very close mention to Vince McMahon and his awesome hairdo.
We always have to mention that. Yeah,
you just got nudged out.
What a maneuver.
Whatever. That he will get the honor roll one day. I'm sure of it.
He'll get there.
And that puts a bow on Don Morocco and Jimmy Snuka. Fun look back on that one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that as well. We've now looked at two feuds from the late 80s, three if you want to count Hogan and Savage as well. Taking Hogan and Savage out of the equation, what did you enjoy better? Last question before we bring it home and talk about next week's show. What build did you enjoy better? Which feud did you like better? Sheik and Slaughter or Snuka and Morocco?
I feel like you know this answer already. It's got to be Snuka and Morocco. USA.
I'm going the other way. USA.
I know. I was waiting for that.
I loved it. I just wanted a reason to chant USA. I'm not gonna lie.
You know, I will say the matches leading up to Sheik and Slaughter, those were great.
Mhm.
The strap match, I love. It just comes down to those promos. And again,
Fair.
you know, yeah, I
The
gotta
Iron
go
Sheik being a
Morocco.
camel. That
Oh,
wasn't-
that we're going to find a way to put USA into every episode.
We just start the show. Put it in the entrance song.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I kind of alluded to 1997 a little bit earlier there, and we're gonna go back to 1997. It's Halloween season right now.
Spooky.
Ooh, scary. You know, so I figured we'd start Halloween season off with a blood feud, right? And Halloween, when I think Halloween, I think of Halloween Havoc, and I think of 1997's Halloween Havoc. And we're going to take a very deep dive look into the mask versus title match from Halloween Havoc 1997, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. Many people have called this the greatest match in the history of WCW. Is the Prodigy going to agree with it? You're going to have to tune out next week to find out.
I am so looking. This is one of the matches that I went into this podcast of like a mental list of matches that I want to hit on. This was one of the top ones because I've heard the legend about it. I've heard about what happens in it. I wanted to see it. So I'm so looking forward to reviewing this feud, seeing some late 90s Eddie and Ray. Never seen anything of that before. God, I'm looking forward to next week.
Well, that's it. I've got nothing more to say this week. Do you have anything you want to say before we ring the bell here?
No, I'm all good to go, folks. Make sure that you leave a like on this video. We're getting some great views. Make sure you support in any way you can, and likes and comments go a long way. Let us know what you think of this feud. What are you looking forward to seeing with Ray and Eddie next week? Do you want to see any matches or feuds be covered in future episodes? Let us know in the comments. Those go a long way. And again, leave those likes because they help a lot. But besides that, I've got nothing else to say. You can look at the social medias around us and follow us and support the classroom.
Yeah, follow all that stuff. If you really need to be simplified, everything is on www.countedout7.com as well.
I was waiting for it. There it is.
I had to get it in at least once a show.
It's the quota, though, the countedout7.com quota that Mike has installed here.
Well, if I don't do it, he punches me in the stomach when no one's looking. So
yeah,
I'm too old for stomach punches now, you know. But yeah, everything's on there as well, and we are definitely going to be showcasing the Titantron on there as well because we're excited to have that coming back. But in the meantime, for this week, class has been a dismiss.